Hi and welcome to another episode of Dazzatron's Diorama Llama, and in this video I'm going to show you how to make a throne or chair. So to begin with, ideally you would want different sizes of styrofoam. You can see I've got an assortment here. You could cut them down. It depends if you've got a cutter really to be able to do that. So I'm using the 4-inch and I think it's the 2-inch version of the styrofoam, and as you can see I've sat down the figure that I want to sit on the throne. Now I'm going to use Rodimus because I don't have a Megatron at hand, but you could use whichever figure you want to, but it is worthwhile having the figure there with you so you can kind of check the sizes and make sure that that figure sits on that chair. So you can see here I'm measuring Rodimus just to get a size of how wide he is. Particularly a lot of figures have backpacks, so you need to kind of cater for that really. So I'm just marking up my measurements on my larger piece of styrofoam, and then I'm going to kind of draw out a rectangle, and then I'll be cutting that with the electric foam cutter. So you can see here I've marked out my first kind of template, and then I've cut that out using just a regular saw, and I've also cut out another block roughly around the same size. This was a bit of an offcut, so it's a little bit smaller, but this will make the bottom of my chair. So I'm just marking here the shape of the chair. I am basing this on the Nemesis bridge chair that you see in the G1 cartoon. So I'm just kind of making that shape, and now I'm just using just a sandpaper just to kind of get rid of the rough edges from where I've cut the styrofoam. So I've now got my template, and I've marked out the shape that I want to cut. You could do this with a knife if you wanted to, but it would take you a lot longer. So I'm using again a styrofoam foam cutter, which is an electric cutter. If you had a vertical blade cutter, which are a lot more expensive, this would be super easy and you'd probably get a much better cut. The one I'm getting here, but you do have to pay quite a bit more money for those. So this one, as I've said in a previous video, was about £25, which I think is reasonable. So you can see I'm just cutting away some smaller pieces just to make it easier, and it just means then that if I make a mistake, it's not really going to cause any damage to the overall piece. It does help to go really slow and to check both sides, because I'm relying on the steadiness of my hand. It's very easy to go off kilter really when you're using this, and to get a slant to your cut. Again, if you had a vertical cutter, it would be much easier. So get as close as you can to your guidelines. It just means you've got less then to sand down or to file away. And as you can see, I'm turning my block just so I can see both sides and make sure it's as close as I can get it really to the shape that I want. So now I'm going to just cut away the corners. I'm not worried about the curve of that corner at this point. I just want to get rid of that edge. And again, I can use sandpaper and a file. So you can see now I've got this other block which I'd cut earlier, and I'm just making sure it's the same size as the seat. And then I'm also going to mark the shape that I want. So I want a bit of a slant on both sides of this. So I'm just going to mark that out roughly. And if you want to use a ruler and measure that, you can. So you can see here I've cut out the base and I've cut out or created a rough cut of the seat. So it's time now really to start sanding this down and just making that shape look a lot neater and a lot better. So yeah, I'm just going to check the size first with my figure, and that seems a good fit, so that works. And my desk spot for today is not going to be Rodimus, it's going to be Deathsaurus. This is Planet X Deathsaurus, or Desaurus, from the Victory cartoon, and I'm looking forward to the HasLabs project. So he's my desk spot today, and he's a brilliant transformer. Really pleased with him. So again, an assortment of files is really useful when you're just kind of shaping your chair and the seat in this case. So I've got a larger file and I've got some smaller files. For the most part I'm using this larger file, and you can see it's got a flat end and a rounded end, and these are just a few pounds from a DIY shop. I think I got this one from Wilkinson's. So it doesn't cost a lot of money to get set up to create some of these dioramas or bases or objects that we're creating in these videos. So that round edge is really useful to get in that curve. So yeah, I'm just using a larger piece of sandpaper just to make sure I'm getting that smooth edge. You can see it's quite rough from the video there, but yeah, with a little bit of work you can get that right down. I mean, I'm sure lots of you watching these videos have a lot better tools than what I have here. These are really basic, and the reason why I'm doing this is just to show you that with very little setup you can create some nice pieces. You don't need to go out and buy a lot of expensive equipment, but if you've got it at hand, then absolutely use it. So I'm using 180 grit here, just to get a smoother finish. Now I've taken off most of the rougher pieces really, so this is just to get a nicer finish to the piece, particularly on those curved edges there for the seat. So there's my pretty much finished seat. It still has a little bit of work, but it's pretty much there. Yeah, I would say when you're sanding styrofoam, the dust does, kind of get everywhere really. So if you want to wear a mask or be in a well ventilated area, that's quite useful to do that. And of course I'm just checking that my figure sits nicely in his chair, and I'm checking it against the base as well. And you can see there the front of my base needs a bit of a sand as well. So same method. So right, with this piece I'm now going to cut out the back of this chair. So I'm using this seat as a bit of a guide, because I want the back of the chair to slot into the seat. So I'm just kind of lining this up with the smaller piece or thinner piece of styrofoam and just marking out my guidelines. And I'm keeping the arch of the seat as close to the bottom as possible, so I've got very little wastage really. So it's that curve there at the bottom that's the most important. So you can see I've put that as close to the edge of the styrofoam as I can. And now I'm using again my figure to get an idea of the size. You can do this any size, but I wanted mine to be quite tall. So if you do compare my chair to the original chairs that you see in the series or that you can buy online, then you'll see that mine is quite a lot taller. And I did that on purpose, and that's the nice thing about this. It's your chair. You can make it how you want to. You can change it, you can adapt it. It's completely up to you. So what I'm doing now, I'm just finding the halfway point. So I can just make sure that I've got a line of symmetry there, and it just means then that both sides of the, I suppose, the backrest look pretty much equal. So I'm just marking out the top where I think that chair will finish. And then I'm using a ruler just to mark that out. And just to make it a little bit more accurate. So by having that line of symmetry in the middle, it just means I can get a neater drawing really, and a neater cut. So mine was 2 inches at the top. Yeah, so I do want a slight kind of slant, so I've used the bottom, or if you like, the opening of the seat. So you can see it's wider there at the bottom and a bit more narrow at the top. And again, I've cut that down and I've just left a little bit of an edge, which I now need to get rid of. And if you use I suppose a sandpaper with I think it'd be a lower grit actually, if I remember right, then you'll just find it easier to sand that down a bit quicker. So I'm just checking this now against the seat, just see I can get a good fit. And it's really important when you're sanding down those curves that you kind of go with the curve. You can see here that's fitting much better now. And it just means when I glue that, it's going to slot in place a lot easier. And I won't need to kind of clamp anything together really. There is a bit of a gap there, but I can just fill that in with some filler, which I'll show you a little bit later. And that's just any regular filler, poly filler, any brand really, or just a home brand will work for that. So you can see there, this has really come together. Now you've got the seat and the backrest and the base in place. None of this is glued down yet, but you can see it's working. And I haven't glued it down just yet, just so it gives me a bit more flexibility if I need to make any last minute changes. And again, check it against your figure. That's really important. So you can see that's a good fit. You can see he's not too wide, he's not kind of sticking out. The only issue we've got is the legs there don't quite reach the floor. So I've just made a little foot stand which would slot in underneath Rodimus's feet there. And it just looks a little bit better then really. And that's a good fit. So yeah, so I just want to give a bit of shape now to the piece and start to add some of the details. And again, if you look at the original chair, you'll see different variations on the overall shape. So I've just added these two kind of pieces that are kind of jutting out. And again, I've cut those down with the foam cutter, and now I'm just using my smaller files just to smooth those out and get a bit more shape to it. And I'm pretty much there. I'm pretty happy with the overall look of that, and it's time really to start adding some details or getting some last minute finishes. So here I've just added a little bit of a curve to the backrest, and just using sandpaper, so just to kind of taper that down a little bit, and I just think that looks a bit more interesting from the side rather than just a block. And now I'm just using that file again just to make sure that those edges are really smooth. I wasn't happy with the way I'd smoothed this down earlier on, so I just wanted to take a bit more off and give a bit more shape to it. And that's the great thing about this styrofoam, it's really easy to shape, so it gives you that flexibility if you want to make those kind of last minute changes really. So really important when you're using the file that you just kind of follow that curve, so it's kind of uniform all the way along. and I'm using a finer sandpaper now just to give it a nicer finish. I'm not too worried about the bottom of the seat because that will be glued to the base, so I don't need to smooth that. And so here you can see I've started to add a bit of detail to the edge, and I'm just using a pencil, just a sharp pencil. I think it gives me the better line. It's still not perfect, and you will see that. You'll see that it's not, you know, exactly the same or uniform everywhere, but it's pretty close to it. Obviously I'm not using a machine to add the details like you would get with the actual product if you was buying it. So I'm just using a ruler here just to keep it as straight as I can. And with this, I've looked at some of the chairs that you can already purchase and the images from the original cartoon to get some ideas, but I've decided to go with my own design, really. I think that's really important. So you can see I'm just pressing lightly first of all, just to get a slight indent, and when I'm happy with that shape, then I can press a bit harder. And it just means, again, if you're not happy with the original line, you can sand that back and then add it again. So here is the finished piece with, you know, lots more detail, and it just really finishes off the overall look of the chair, really. You could add more details to the sides and the back if you wanted to. So this is the polyfiller I use. This is just a home a home brand version. It's not an expensive brand, and you can see where I've just filled in and I've painted over the whole chair now. So I've given it a black base coat. You could use a white base coat if you wanted to. I just find that the metallic purple works really well on top of the black. Now I haven't shown you how to paint this because I'm not using any weathering techniques or trying to make it look older in any way. So it really is just a good coat of the metallic purple that I used in one of my earlier videos, which is the how to make a futuristic base. So if you want to watch that video for some ideas, and you could weather this if you wanted to, it really is up to you. But I just think that metallic finish just really gives it a nice look and a nice feel. And so here's the only Megatron I own, which is Iron Factory's Tyrant. So it looks like he's got his high chair there. And this is the only Starscream that I own, which is the Ghost Starscream version. Which again, I think it's Iron Factory. It might not be. I think it is though. I would have quite liked to have used Shockwave on this. I just think that would have been great, but unfortunately his backpack gets in the way. But I think he would have looked great on this throne. He would have looked really cool. So yeah, so we're back to King Rodimus. He's one of my favourite characters, so I'm very happy for him to sit here on this throne. So yeah, I just think that works really well. And here is the finished footrest. So at this point, I just wanted to give a shout out to a fellow YouTuber called Magnum Prime. I joined Discord recently and he heard that I was looking for a Transformers art book, and he sent it to me free of charge as he had a copy, and I was just bowled over by that. His generosity was amazing. So I just wanted to gift this chair to him. So this is who this video is dedicated to. So I hope he likes it, and do feel free to check out his videos. And thanks for watching, and I hope you have a go at making this chair yourselves and have fun doing it. See you later, guys.